Under the sinister glow of the blood moon, 3 witches, Isolde, Freya, and Morwen, gathered in a cursed forest, their hatred for each other palpable. The ritual they were about to perform was forbidden, one that could grant absolute power to one of them, but at a terrible price, the destruction of the other 2. The blood moon loomed overhead, an omen of the violence and betrayal that was about to unfold. Isolde, the eldest and most ruthless, spoke first, her voice like the crackle of dry leaves. "Only one of us will walk away tonight. The others will feed the earth with their blood." Freya, the wildest among them, smirked. "I've waited centuries for this moment, Isolde. You and Morwen won't live to see another dawn." Morwen, the silent and cunning one, simply nodded, her eyes gleaming with malice. The ritual began, the witches chanting in an ancient, guttural language as they circled a massive stone altar. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and the trees groaned as if aware of the dark power being unleashed. A swirling vortex of red mist rose from the altar, crackling with energy, ready to consume the souls of the defeated. Isolde struck first, extending her hands toward Freya and Morwen. Black lightning crackled from her fingertips, shooting toward her enemies with a deafening roar. Freya barely had time to react, throwing up a shield of wind that deflected the attack, but not before the edges of her cloak caught fire. She hissed in pain, but her eyes burned with fury. "Is that the best you've got, Isolde?" Freya snarled, her voice cutting through the night. With a sweep of her hand, she summoned a storm, dark clouds swirling overhead. Thunder rumbled as jagged bolts of lightning rained down on Isolde, each one hitting with the force of a sledgehammer. Isolde screamed as the lightning seared her flesh, but she wasn't finished. With a guttural cry, she unleashed a wave of necromantic energy, causing the earth beneath Freya to split open. Decayed hands, remnants of those who had perished in the forest over the centuries, clawed their way out of the ground, grabbing Freya's legs and pulling her down. But Freya was no stranger to death. With a single word, she turned the undead hands to ash, but not before one managed to sink its claws deep into her thigh, drawing blood. She staggered, the pain fueling her rage. "You'll pay for that, Isolde," she hissed, her voice laced with venom. Meanwhile, Morwen had been watching, waiting for the right moment. As Isolde and Freya clashed, she whispered an incantation under her breath, her words seeping into the earth. The ground began to tremble, and from the shadows emerged monstrous creatures, twisted and grotesque, their eyes glowing with a hellish light. They lunged at Isolde and Freya, teeth gnashing and claws slashing. Isolde, weakened but determined, blasted the creatures with fire, turning them to charred husks. But Morwen wasn't finished. She raised her hands to the sky, and the blood moon's light intensified, bathing the forest in an eerie red glow. The light began to burn the skin of the other 2 witches, searing their flesh like acid. Freya screamed as her skin blistered, her once beautiful face melting into a grotesque mask. Desperate, she unleashed her most powerful spell, summoning a hurricane of fire that engulfed the entire clearing. Trees were uprooted, the ground scorched, and the air filled with the stench of burning flesh. Morwen, caught in the inferno, shrieked as the flames consumed her. But in her final moments, she unleashed a curse of her own, one that would bind their souls to the cursed forest for eternity. With a final, agonized scream, Morwen was reduced to ash, her soul ripped from her body and absorbed by the blood moon. Isolde, barely clinging to life, stumbled forward, her body a charred ruin. She reached out to the altar, but before she could claim the power, Freya, now nothing more than a skeletal figure wreathed in flames, grabbed her by the throat. "You will die here, Isolde," Freya rasped, her voice a death rattle. With a surge of strength, she squeezed, crushing Isolde's windpipe. Isolde's eyes bulged, and with one final, defiant glare, she spat blood into Freya's face before crumpling to the ground, lifeless. Freya staggered back, her body disintegrating as the flames consumed her. She fell to her knees, the ritual's energy swirling around her, ready to claim her as well. With her last breath, Freya cursed the forest, damning it to be a place of eternal torment, where no soul could ever find peace. As the blood moon slowly faded, the forest fell silent. The trees stood charred and twisted, and the ground was scorched black. Nothing remained of the witches except for their curses, which lingered in the air, waiting for the next foolish soul to stumble upon the haunted clearing. And so, the legend of the Blood Moon Coven lived on, a tale of unspeakable power, betrayal, and the price of darkness, whispered by the wind that still carried the echoes of the witches' final screams.